Welcome. I am here with Jamie Orr. She is the co-founder at CoWork Tahoe, which is in South Lake Tahoe, and a new brand, Untethered Coworking, which is in Zephyr Cove, which is just like 20 minutes from the original space. And you've got like the awesome mug that I keep seeing you pick up there. And anybody watching on YouTube, a beautiful like winter scene out the window because Tahoe just keeps getting more and more snow.
A lot of snow.
A lot of snow. Yeah. Never ending shoveling. We went up a couple weeks ago and I spent the whole weekend like shoveling the decks. It's a great workout and a good time to catch up on podcasts, but a lot of work.
Yeah, no, I did about 45 minutes of shoveling this morning. So, definitely alters my training program for each day.
Totally. Right. And so you have to, what do you go to the space like extra early so you can shovel on days when it snows?
Yeah, if we need to. I mean, so we got about like a foot overnight or during the day yesterday. And so this morning, but it was light and fluffy. So it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Thank goodness it was light and fluffy.
The Sierra cement is what the plow service calls it in their emails. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that last month was pretty brutal. That was very, very heavy.
I know. I had to use like the ice pick thing to get, because if you let it sit, it just gets hard and crunchy and very hard to move.
Yeah. That is
you know what? I was going to look up when our last episode was a long time ago, I think.
Gosh, 2019?
It's like, what hasn't changed since then? Okay. So, well, let's talk about personal front. I didn't mention this in our pre-chat. You just got another dog.
We did. Yes.
A big one. Let's talk about that.
A very big dog. So first of all, both co-working spaces are dog friendly, and I actually highlight the dogs in our social media a lot. So our newest dog is a Great Pyrenees. He's a 1.5 years old, and his name is Bassa, which is Basque for like the Basque like mythological Yeti, the Lord of the Woods.
Ah, perfect.
He's like very regal, giant 100-pound white fur ball. And I used to think our 3-year-old golden retriever was like a normal large sized dog, and she just looks like a chihuahua.
Do they get along?
They get along really, really well.
Okay. Yeah, was it a rescue or how did
rescue?
Okay.
So he was actually pulled out of Needles, California, which is often claimed to fame as being like one of the hottest places in the country. So he was not
suited. Yeah.
So he was not in the right environment. It was a kind of an unstable home life, very loving owner, but realized that they needed to do better by him. So he's now in Tahoe and frolicking in the snow.
Right, which is like his element. Okay, so I thought I tagged on Facebook my CrossFit, my best friend Christine. She also just got a Great Pyrenees rescue. His name is Samson. Yeah. And so I was like, I might have to connect the two of you. Not that you're geographically close, but roughly the same age. He's a beautiful dog. And, but yeah, similar, like 100 pounds. She's like, I'm losing weight because I have to walk him all the time.
we have to wear the tracks because even if it's not super icy, we need like the extra grip under our feet. So we wear these tracks on our shoes when we take them for a walk.
And do you have to keep them on leash? Because she said she had 2 dogs. She lost them both last year, but she said they're like territory. Yeah, they need to go like find their space, and it'd be gone if you let him.
We have to keep him on leash all the time, which is a little bit challenging. So Cassie, our golden retriever, still gets to be like the backcountry ski dog. So David, my husband, take her on the backcountry adventures, and she just tears down the ski slope and is great on recall. Great for photos.
Right.
Super cute.
And she gets her own time with dad. So that's nice.
Whereas like he will romp for like half an hour and then he's just out. Like he's done and he'll sleep. But he loves perching on we have a deck at the back of our house. It's 3 stories up on a hill. So it's really high up. And he will sit on top of a table on that deck and just look out.
Because that's like their role, right? Yeah. As a breed.
Guards the neighborhood.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So they do bark, and it's more like having a toddler than a dog. They don't really listen to you, but they'll do what you want if they feel like it. So you have to be nice to them, and they have to trust you, and then they'll go along with it.
which is different than a golden retriever. So I'm sure that's I know. And wait, speaking of toddlers, is your older daughter 11-ish? Because she's close to
Yep,
my daughter's age. Okay.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's 11 in fifth grade.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then the youngest is in TK, which is like the preppy K program that California has for basically 4-year-olds, and then they go into kindergarten the next.
I know, but thank goodness for working moms. I was like, thank you. Here you go.
Yeah,
no more paying for daycare.
For 1 year. I only have 1 year where they're ever going to be at the same school, and it's this year. And so it's one drop off, one pickup, which is also very helpful. And again, we're in a small town, but it's still, it adds to it if we're having to cross it, especially when there's ice and snow and potholes and ski traffic. It gets to be pretty interesting.
A lot. Yeah. Super fun. Okay. So let's talk about co-working. So a lot going on. Second space since we last talked. For anybody, so I'll find the number of the last episode and I'll put it in the show notes so that they can kind of get the original story. So I love your story because for anybody listening who's like pre-space, you started like a minimum viable product in a couple thousand square feet because you're in a smaller market. And at the time, like kind of a smaller community, mountain town, South Lake Tahoe. You have to look at a map for anybody. It's the bottom of Lake Tahoe, on the California side, but California Nevada border. And then bought a building with another couple and started CoWork Tahoe. So you kind of dove in head first. And now you've got a second location, new brand, and a management agreement. So you're, kind of doing all the things. So talk about, let's start with kind of the new space. I'm interested in like when you thought, you were approached, we were talking about the pre-chat, talk about maybe what that was like and what you thought about and sort of how you evaluated the opportunity. And it's about 20 minutes from your first space. But I looked at the population of Zephyr Cove is like 563. It's like tiny.
Yeah. The Nevada, so the South Shore of Lake Tahoe is a fairly cohesive community, which is actually different than North Shore. North Shore is a little bit more
distinct. So
South Shore, Nevada side, I think it's actually, there's a couple thousand full-time residents.
Okay.
But that's pretty small. And,
exactly.
On the California side, it's still only in the like 25,000 range. And obviously that fluctuates greatly depending on if it's ski season or high summer. We get a lot of tourist traffic. So we have this, very heavily tourism-based economy. In Tahoe, it is, it's a global destination. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the painting behind me is.
I know you've got the the summer painting, the winter mountains there, all the things. Yeah.
But because we do straddle that state line, there was this entire section of our community that actually, for tax reasons, cannot be members at our California location. The state of Nevada does not.
They couldn't write it off if they wanted to write it off.
So if people start working on the California side, then they actually would be subject to California income tax.
Oh, that's like they're opening an office there.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, that's even though it's a membership, it's a membership. Huh. That's so interesting.
Yeah. So we had a lot of like members that would come in, and also, I mean,
because it's so close. I mean, it's
so close. Yeah. There is kind of the state line. Even though there again it is only about 20 minutes between the two spaces, there is it's the downtown corridor. So if you think about like driving through the most touristy spaces of any city, like if it'd be like having to drive through Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, or so a lot of people don't like crossing.
Don't want to do it. Yeah.
That corridor because that's like the downtown.
Yep.
They won't. I've had friends that have quite literally moved to one side or the other because they don't want to keep driving back and forth. Of course I drive back and forth, but it's not too bad. But because of that, it was just enough that people weren't joining. And so we had this like segment that we were not serving. So
okay.
David and I had been
David, your husband.
My husband and partner, so we work together on all the things. And
you opened the first location, you said 9 years ago. Is that
9 years? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Can you is that crazy to think about?
It's not. I mean, nobody knew what co-working was in Tahoe.
Right.
Still,
like in the rest of the world. I mean,
or even in the rest of the world, it's still kind of like, wait, what are you doing? What is that, like a business center? Is it like an internet cafe? Like, no. And and it's I'll have people come by now and they're like, oh, you moved to Tahoe before it was cool, like before COVID. It's like,
Right, exactly, right. And did co-working before it was cool, everything. Yeah.
yeah. And it was one of those things where we've been looking and thinking about and kind of noodling on opening a second location on the Nevada side so we could fully serve the South Shore. So fast forward to like 2019, we start hearing murmurings that this 3-story, 10,000 square foot building that we've looked at but didn't want to pull the trigger on ourselves was in escrow. And it was being purchased by a tech CEO. And lo and behold, then we get an introduction. And it's Chet Pipkin, who, for anyone that doesn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know his name. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the founder of Belkin Electronics. So Belkin, Linksys, Wemo. He's well known in like the Los Angeles, Manhattan Beach area. He's often called the like basically the wealthiest tech CEO you've never heard of because he's very low profile.
Under
he's very
the radar. Wow.
He's a really big advocate, and along with his entire family, of just doing things that are good for people. And he's a big community builder. He's very philanthropic. He and his wife Jan have 7 children, and then many of them. So it's a really large family unit. And so they reached out and said, hey, we're buying this building and we were told to talk to you because we kind of want to do this like co-working
this guy
thing.
calls you and you like Google him. You're like, hey, Dave.
Okay.
Wow.
Panic subsides. But we toured. So they finally closed on the building in February of 2020. And we tour it with them right after they close. And kind of talk them through what it would look like to turn this like 3-story building into a functional co-working space. And apparently what we said at that meeting was totally different than what they were going to do if they did it themselves. They were going to do like, think co-working from 10, 15 years ago. So lots and lots of open space, no private offices, just all completely shared amenities. And I actually
and as a tech startup guy, I could see him thinking that's what my team would do. Who needs offices? We would just like roll in and get to work, and it's all open. He loves the serendipity. Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yes.
And you were like, okay, well.
So I was like, no, we need to carve out lots of little offices and really nice extra like kind of like active work environment spaces. So lots of little huddle spaces and phone booths and 1 or 2 conference rooms, but nothing too big, no giant event center. And they just like, oh, okay. And so we continued working on it. Originally it was going to be a second CoWork Tahoe location, but given just what our CoWork Tahoe co-founders wanted for themselves looking forward and what we were thinking about doing, ultimately we decided that David and I would go ahead and move forward with it under a new brand. And actually it is kind of nice having 2 brands because it does balance it and actually leaves to a little bit less confusion since they're in different states. And we have slightly different, different vibes. And so we really were able to experiment with what a different brand in 2020 could look like compared to when we started back in 2014.
Well, it was awesome timing because I love the brand. Like Untethered is so relevant right now. Yeah. I mean, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, we're doing a just kind of like I was taking everybody through a branding exercise and like going through kind of what we wanted from a like value set and looking at what would be attractive not only for the local companies that already live and work in Tahoe, but maybe people that were coming through and visiting or considering it. Yep. And Chet spit out Untethered, and all of us were just like, that's it. Got it. Yeah. And so it was a really, really fun exercise and we've had a lot of fun with it. I keep pushing it more towards like the physics and like think like Untethered spacewalk. And everybody else like brings me back in and like, no, like think about mountain peaks. I'm like, okay, fine. So I did get some stars at the very top of our logo.
There you go. That's your influence. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that little like hiding around the building is kind of an inside joke. Then I move them periodically.
So how long did it take from when you met him to like, okay, let's do it?
Yep. So most of, again, 2020 definitely threw in some additional challenges.
Some lack of urgency.
Uh, well, I mean, we kept moving forward, but it was kind of like, all right, so yeah, are things going to change? What is the market going to look like? We're also navigating obviously all of the personal stuff and still running CoWork Tahoe during a pandemic and dealing with having children at home. But we kind of just kept plodding forward and decided that we'd actually go with a management agreement was going to be the best thing. So the Pipkin family owns the property. David and I are under a management agreement to operate Untethered, and then actually the brand we co-founded the actual brand in case we want to do any additional work with that specific brand. So it's like this three-prong approach that I think is actually really effective.
So their family co-owns the brand. So if you did a third location, if it wasn't with them, new brand. Okay, cool.
Well, or no, we could license the brand.
You could license the brand. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
It leads, and also it ensures that, we are truly partnered on it. So Chet and his son Trevor are kind of our lead Pipkin partners on that. So that's stand-ups with, and Trevor works with David and I kind of on a day-to-day basis as the building owner, and he'll come in and he'll actually cover for us if we go on vacation.
That's amazing. Is that not amazing? I suspect anybody listening with a management agreement does not have that kind of relationship. That's really cool.
It truly is a partnership, and we've just been absolutely thrilled to work with this family. We're able to do a lot of additional philanthropic work through the Untethered brand in partnership with their family foundation, which has been fantastic. So, like for example, David and I are big supporters of the local area mountain bike association, and he's on the board of directors for that. And so, we'll do donations for that and for events. Same with things like the Boys and Girls Club, which is a vital piece of childcare infrastructure in Tahoe. Our own kids use Boys and Girls Club for after school care. And so through Untethered, we support a number of initiatives for that, including like new buildings or yearly fundraisers, and so really making sure that we're putting that community piece outside of just Untethered. It's actually the broader community that we're trying to support.
Yep. Okay, I love it. So do you think that do they have plans to do this like elsewhere, or is this kind of a one and done thing for them?
I think I think we'll all kind of decide that together. We just hit our 1-year anniversary of being open at Untethered. And
that's exciting.
So we opened in December of 2021.
Which is also right. Omicron and it was like never a good time for 2 years to open.
No, and throw in the added. So in August and September, so basically late summer of 2021 was the Caldor fire, which was one of the largest fires in California history. And so we were actually evacuated for a month. Your space or your family or both? The entire town.
A whole month? I don't think I realized it was an entire month.
The official evacuation was not long, but like David and I were gone for a month. Because between the smoke being so bad, I actually am an asthmatic.
Oh gosh, we had
to leave. But I mean, the flames came within a quarter mile of our house, and so like our neighborhood, and the a last minute change of wind is the only thing that kept our neighborhood from burning down and the community from burning down. So that was like, throw that in the we're trying to furnish it and get all construction finished, and we have to shut construction down. We'd already had to shut construction down because of COVID. Like say like the construction team comes out and gets an outbreak, hits their team, and so they need to shut down. And then we have fires, and we have to deal with the smoke mitigation and not knowing if we're coming back. So it was a lot. And then supply chain, like, let me tell you, if you thought it was hard to get furniture and you live in a major city, try getting really nice office furniture in a rural community that is evacuated to fire.
Yeah. Wow.
So a lot of pivoting, a lot of hard work, but we've officially been open for a year. We opened at 85% capacity occupancy. And we are now at 100% occupancy with a wait list ever since.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, I just would love your perspective of, you did the sort of the MVP 9 years ago. Yeah, talk about the evolution. Like, who do you serve? Has it changed post COVID? Like, did COVID help, or was that demand there? I mean, that's amazing. And then wait, how many square feet is the building?
This building's just over 10,000 square feet.
Okay,
And
so similar, although you did an expansion on the first
yeah,
location.
first one we have just for 12,000. So comparable in size.
Okay.
CoWork Tahoe is single story. So that actually,
That's right.
it makes
Okay.
the like community design flow easier
Yep.
than a three building. So we have, like at Untethered, we have, there's 36 private offices. We have one co-working area and 2 kitchens. And then we also have 8 meeting rooms of different sizes, like from
8
phone booth
meeting
size.
rooms. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we have,
And did you
or
want
like,
the meeting rooms, or was Chet like, we gotta have meeting rooms? Like,
that was us, yeah. But they're small.
okay,
Like our largest one
like
seats,
huddle rooms and
yeah, like our largest one seats, up to 16 officially, but I wouldn't put more than 10 to 12 in there for most
yeah,
days. That's
got
the
it.
biggest room we have, unless we can use the co-working. We have one kind of open co-working area, but there's only 20 desks. It can double as an event space. Like we will do catered lunches in there, so we actually keep it as a flex space.
Yep.
We don't have as many dedicated, like we don't really do dedicated desks. I mean,
Yep.
we do
Okay.
some.
Interesting. Do they just not? I'm always dedicated desks is always like, will they work? Will they not work? I always tell people like, you just gotta experiment. It's hard to
Yeah.
know.
Less demand for those than I would say pre-COVID. And I don't know if it's just this space or in general.
Yep.
But we do less of that. We do a lot of flex and we do a lot of day passes.
Okay.
We're starting to build up virtual office as well. And so we do get we've gotten quite a few meetings and like small team retreats that have come through, which is nice because we have a lot of lodging properties. The beach is a 10-minute walk. We have a lot of restaurants right in this same complex. So it's a great location. But yeah, definitely most of our offices are kind of in the like 75 to 100 square foot range. We
Okay.
haven't got full micro yet.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd say 80 square feet is kind of my sweet spot.
Okay, I love this. Chet was like, and it's all open space and it's really collaborative, and you're like, we're doing 36 offices, right?
Yeah.
75 to 100 square feet. Let me show you the floor plan. Okay, but I love that you got him there and now you're 100% occupied. So
he got it right away.
yeah, okay. So for him, like, what's the ROI for him? Is he like, does he sort of, and Trevor, is that his son's name? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So are they in sort of like less of a typical landlord mode, or what are their kind of goals for the space?
They do have target metrics on like what the ROI for the investment is going to be. And so we have that kind of mapped out as part of our ramp up. And so far we're on track. We're hitting our revenue and profit goals, which is great because we do have like a profit share on top of some of the management work. So that, it's an extra incentive for David and I to keep crushing it.
Yep.
They've done a number of they love Tahoe. Like their family's had a place in Tahoe for decades.
Okay.
And a number of the family members now live here. So they just opened a really phenomenal boutique hotel project called Desolation Hotel, which is named after Desolation Wilderness, which is a really amazing wilderness area in South Shore.
Okay.
And it's like, you've got a garage, you've got a full kitchen, but it's like full luxury boutique hotel style, super sustainably built, wow. Really high-end design, a phenomenal like 5-star restaurant in it. But there's only, I think there's like maybe 30 rooms or something like that. It's small.
Cool.
So it's like a
okay.
They just built that from the ground up. And so a number of the family members are working on that, or like GM on that. Okay. Like Chet's is one of the leads on that. They also purchased a resort up in Hope Valley, which is closer to the Kirkwood ski resort. Okay. It was Sorensen's, so it's now called Wilder. And so they did that, and then they needed office space, and so this is one of the other projects. So they've done a number of kind of fun, but again, interesting and modern projects in the Tahoe area, and they are really committed to this community. And so I think they're just kind of seeing how they go and are having fun, and again trying to do good work for the communities that they love.
Yeah. Would you say they were sort of easier to work with during well, you hadn't opened during the pandemic, so you were not like, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they just had to find their way through. They closed, and then no short-term, immediate term revenue on that bill. What was in the space before you took it over?
it was largely underutilized. There was a woman that did consulting work out of the building for a long time. At one point, she had actually attempted like a shared office space co-working model.
Yep.
We declined to come in on that for a number of reasons. And before that, it was actually like it was a government like public agency building at one point. It was built in the like early 80s. So it's an interesting design. It's very geometrical, so there's almost like wings to it. So it was definitely it was a challenge from space planning perspective. But we do have like a Google video tour, and you can kind of like walk your way through it a little bit.
Okay. We'll link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So yeah, who works there? What's the membership like?
I actually recently did kind of a polling. So we've got about we're just over 100 members so far. So again, still on the small side, but we only have about 150 at CoWork Tahoe. So actually,
I was going to say it's like so relative. You're in a smaller market. So
yep.
I hear 100, and I like high five and 100% occupancy. I mean, so you're really kind of building around. You're trying to build your flex membership and your, the mail, all those things.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We definitely have the capacity, and then again, the practices are on a wait list. It is still about 90% locals, so people that live and work in Tahoe full time, and about 2/3 of the companies are actually local facing.
Okay.
So we have real estate, we have financial planners, we've got design and construction, we've got someone that does a lot of IT consulting work in the area. Mortgage and lending is also kind of big. So a lot of kind of the primary local facing industries that are up here. We have a few that are tourist based. One of them is like a large scale development project that's like a lakefront property and like private club. And so their administrative team is in here because we're right down the road. And then we have, and then obviously the co-working members, the flex members is where we typically see more of the remote work. So they're working for a company that is not here, but they live here full time because it's Tahoe and they would love to ski, and maybe they live in a neighborhood that doesn't have very good broadband infrastructure because it still is very spotty depending on where you are. And so we're serving that population as well, that the kind of the remote work from homers that actually can't work from home because there's no internet at home.
Yep, totally. Yeah, interesting. And so they so when they come in, what if they have Zoom calls?
So we built 4 call rooms instead of getting the modular. We built out 4 that are directly adjacent to the co-working space. And so mostly what happens is, most people are only in 2 to 3 days a week. We don't have a lot of people that are in every single day. Yeah. And so they just jump into those rooms. And then we've got the 4 other meeting rooms scattered throughout the building that they can book out as well. In addition to just like a few like little nooks and crannies you can kind of tuck into if it's not like a super sensitive call.
Okay, so do you sell any full-time flex memberships?
We do, and we have a few, but we definitely prioritize. So we have 2 plans. So the first one is a flex, and that's unlimited use during the month, but you don't get a dedicated desk.
Right.
Everything is included. We're I think one of the more rare spaces. We've never charged for meeting room use. We don't have credits or
just using. Wow.
Use. And if I need to buy phone booths, I will buy phone booths. And then we do have a plan that's an extra $100 a month if you want a dedicated desk because you don't want people touching your stuff and you like to leave your monitor there.
Yep.
But we actually definitely try to get everybody as on that flex plan as much as possible because it's it's the thing that makes sense for most people. And then we do like to include everything. Only the like virtual mail is an add-on if you're a co-working member.
Wait, so everybody's on a full-time plan versus a part-time plan?
Yeah, we're not counting days.
Oh, interesting. You're just like, okay, why? Yeah, tell me why.
So at CoWork Tahoe, and we are kind of doing some A/B testing. So CoWork Tahoe, we do have a part-time plan, and it is 10 days a month.
Yep.
But then we do have to track that. And, for the most part, nobody ever goes over that. And we actually do track that in our management system. And then the only other plan is a dedicated desk plan. But what we found is, the sweet spot somewhere in between. And so we wanted to test this flex idea, just opening it up and seeing if people have about the same usage.
Yep.
And they do. So, why do I need to track it? If they're going to use it about 10 days a month anyway, maybe less. And then it's one less
like
thing.
You don't need to, right. You don't need to charge them for their occupancy because the occupancy is the same.
Yes.
Okay. And is the price a little bit like, how do you think about the price for part-time flex versus full-time flex?
They're comparable. And so like I said, we do 200 a month is our flex member, and then 300 a month if you want that dedicated desk. And we just keep it simple. And then we do have day passes, so people can do just days, or they can do our main conference room by the hour. Yeah.
Okay. And do people not, I think flex, it's such an interesting time for pricing because like it used to be pre-COVID, you would have people who would use the space like closer to full time. I mean, maybe not you, but like in general, there would be more people who were like, yeah, I go to the co-working space most of the time. And now it's like they do not. And so whenever I look at people's pricing plans and they have like a 20 day a month, I'm like, but somebody had a 20 day or hours, like the hours. I was looking at somebody who had like an hourly plan. I was like, that's essentially full time because no one is going full time. And so you have to think about your pricing and how, you're going to handle that. So what was my question for you about, yes. Does anybody sort of look at that and say, but I'm not going to use it full time. I want a part-time membership. You just send them to the day pass. So just buy a la carte. Yep. Okay. But people don't argue about like underutilization.
No, we haven't gotten it once on it. So I think, my sense is, at least right now, that we've priced it correctly for what it is.
Yeah.
And, if
so anybody, people might get the sense of like value, like it's $200. I can use it whenever I want. And it's also not too much if I'm only using it half the time.
Yep. And for our members that travel, we don't have a commitment. It's month to month. And so they can pause. And so we'll have people that'll travel, like, let's say they don't do winters up here.
Yep.
And they'll be gone for a month or two, and then they'll just restart when they come back.
Okay.
And I'd rather price it for that kind of ultimate flexibility so that they feel good about what they're getting out of the space. Because we are in a unique market. We're not in an essential business district. We're in a small community that is destination heavy. We do have a few part-time residents that have second homes up here, and they actually just keep a subscription going because they know they're going to need it when they're up here, and they don't want to think about it. So we have a few people that we'll see
that do that. Yeah.
But they just keep it rolling, and I'll ask, like, do you want to pause it? And they're like, no, I just don't want to think about it. Like, great.
Yep. So what's the onboarding, offboarding lift when people come in and out? Like, that's the typical operator. It's like, oh my God, it's a lot.
It's, so we are still, for anybody that doesn't know, for a while, I was doing Jelly Switch, which is a mobile first management system. In 2020, we did roll that company up, and David and I actually retained the IP and we open sourced the code. And so we actually still use that at both Untethered and at CoWork Tahoe. So we have our own app. So people can just create an account. If they do it and they haven't done a tour, we just make sure we meet them on their first day, or we do a tour in advance and then they go ahead and purchase a membership. And then everything's through there. So their room reservations, they're unlocking the door, they can get a hold of us that way, they can pause, they can restart. So it's actually, it's pretty simple. It's not a huge lift either way.
Wait, so if they pause themselves, do they no longer have door access?
Correct. Yep.
Interesting. But you leave them on the emails and
they can get the emails and get the announcements, anything, we have them in those marketing channels. And we are, one of the things that I'm kind of dedicated to this year is getting better about the consistent, like, monthly newsletters and the email marketing, because that's something that we didn't have fully developed, just given everything else going on in the past year. So that's for growth. And so that's my next focus, is getting back into the kind of marketing engine side.
Yeah. Okay. slightly random question, but the mail, because that's kind of your upside now, or like a business identity thing. So in Truckee, you cannot get mail delivered to your home. Is that the same thing where you are?
On the Nevada
I mean,
side,
you kind of can, but it's like a weird, you have to buy a box somewhere and it's small and far away. And it's like,
so in California, there is carrier service. And again, this
okay.
sounds absolutely bizarre to pretty much all of your listeners that
Right.
don't these communities.
Yeah.
So there is carrier service in California. On the Nevada side of Tahoe, there is not. So even for a commercial property, we have to have a post office box for the business. We have an untethered box, and it is across the parking lot, right over there.
Right.
And I have to walk over and check
Yeah.
our mail
Right.
there, and then we can dole it out to people. So we do, in terms of staffing, that is something that we have to do, is we have to walk across the parking lot and get the mail. They will deliver packages here. So like we can get UPS and FedEx packages delivered. Although the address, the actual physical address of the building is the same as the UPS store, one town closer to the state line border, which is with a different zip code. So there's been some confusion there.
I bet.
Not the UPS store. So I go over there a lot because we're taking packages back and forth, but that'll smooth out.
Right.
So all of our members have to use our PO box, our physical address, as well as their own specific like personal mailbox number or office suite.
Right. But so if you have any sort of business and you need to get physical mail,
yes,
you are providing I just mentioned it because I think like there are some unique places where you really could build a significant business potentially for folks who have that issue. I mean, it's a weird thing. I remember my friend Christine explaining you cannot get actual mail. It's like, what do you mean I can't get actual mail? I mean, great, but so I don't get junk mail. You can get Amazon Prime and and other things. But so that's super interesting. What a huge opportunity.
Yeah. And so, that was one of the first things we wanted to make sure we were doing right. So we're actually using the Sphere Mail platform.
Okay.
It has been fantastic. David runs that side of the business, and he's loved it so far. So they've been super helpful. And so business mail in Nevada, in Tahoe, in a Zephyr Cove.
Totally. I love it. Yeah.
For a number of reasons, talk to your CPA. But
right.
It is something that, it is, you shouldn't have, you don't want to use your personal PO box even, let alone your personal physical home address.
And it's a beautiful, if anybody's looking at the, Google's it, it's a beautiful building, like
very professional. You get, then you get access to our meeting rooms or any of our other services. So it's definitely
that'll be fun. Yeah.
Space.
Right. So I'm thinking like your email, marketing could be even more important. Like you're at 100% occupancy on your offices, but you're building flex, and then also educating folks about the business identity service will be fun. So that'll be kind of a fun challenge.
Identity, we've got a notary on site. We can be registered.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So tell me, like, what does your, I don't know, what does your daily life look like? Do you ski a lot? Do you and David like trade off in the?
We do. Both of our kids are phenomenal skiers. I can snowboard. Let's just leave it at that. I'm not fantastic at it. We moved to Tahoe. David and I left Silicon Valley almost 10 years ago, and we did it very deliberately. And I know you and I have talked about this, and I think we talked about this on one of our last interviews. We wanted to intentionally design our lives based on how we wanted to raise our kids and what we enjoyed doing. And so instead of driving up to Tahoe every weekend, we decided to flip the script and be here permanently, because this is where we were vacationing anyway. And so we try to get out. Like we take really nice like snowshoe dog walks at lunch. After this podcast is over, I'm going to drive home and I'm going to walk my giant Great Pyrenees and my golden retriever in the forest. And
my gosh, I love that.
Which
you need, because you're you're an introvert. I have a lot of these conversations with, I run a community manager program, And one of the owners, sorry, this is a little bit of a sidestep, but was talking about, she made a hire, and the hire is probably more of an introvert and would need to go sit in her car and recharge at lunch.
Oh, totally.
So
Yeah.
hard, right? Because you're in an office right now and we're recording a podcast, but you probably have a lot of interactions and you need some time in the forest to recover.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that balance.
And yeah, so during the winter, like last week, David is a phenomenal snowboarder and he does a lot of backcountry.
Okay.
But he actually took a few of our members on a backcountry run they'd never done before. And so we have he calls himself the office butler, his job title. These are the things that we're able to do is we're able to take new members, or if we have people that are day passing, we'll give them, I have trail guides that are sitting down in the co-working space when you're drinking coffee that are written by local authors. So if you don't know the trails,
yeah,
it's why we partner with a lot of the nonprofits like the Mountain Bike Association and the Rim Trail and the League to Save Lake Tahoe and all their work with the lake, because we're here and enjoying this place, and so we want to make sure that we help others do the same. And so that's, we consider it part of our job, and that's probably the most fun part is hey, all right, it's 5:00, everybody, we're going to go on a mountain bike ride, do some downhill, and it's going to end at the beach where there's a tiki bar. And that's a typical Thursday happy hour for us.
Yeah.
So, board meetings, when we say board meeting, we mean you're going skiing. And that's
totally. Okay, I feel like last time we talked, were you doing a test with Heavenly? Have a little.
Oh yes.
I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, why does this not exist? How did this not become wildly popular? I imagine it's just the prime real estate and nobody will give it up.
So in 2016, 2017, we opened the world's first on-mountain co-working space, and it was in partnership with Heavenly Resorts, so it's owned by Vail. We partnered directly with their marketing team, actually, and so there's some, I can send them to you, but there's some great marketing videos from this of someone snowboarding after work with their backpack on down the slope. But we did have a space at one of the lodges. It was lift access only, and so it wasn't something you could just buy a lift ticket and go up there. But it was a great spot. So if you wanted to get first chair, or if you wanted, some of those early morning fresh laps, you didn't have to take the extra hour to come all the way down, drive to your office, drive back home, jump on Zoom. You could just go to the lodge and have a completely locked off little mini co-working space. That was a lot of fun, but they did need the space. That lodge is kind of under some renovations. But we are actually talking to their team again about doing some fun promotional work around remote work and co-working and getting people engaged in the lifestyle again. So
okay.
I have hope that we'll be able to do that again maybe someday.
Okay. Yeah. I totally get the premium real estate, but I also, yes, the use case you just described, of course, it would be amazing. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, you've been through a lot over the last few years. What's next? What are you most excited about right now?
I'm most excited to have maybe a more normal year.
Totally.
Getting to, again, work on kind of normal business stuff. So it's been really, really fun doing it all again, doing a second location in a place no one thought a first location would work, and knocking it out of the park again. We actually just won our local Chamber of Commerce Entrepreneurship Award for Untethered, which was cool. It's nice to get that local recognition that you're doing good work.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to kind of diving back into the industry and seeing, if what we're doing is actually useful for others, including in major city markets. Again, because we have kind of a tricky market, I think David and I have a unique perspective. I think we still have a lot to learn. We might be looking at expansion plans. I don't know what that looks like. We don't have anything set. We wanted to kind of get this space to maturity first, and to do those first 2 years before we launch into anything else. But we're in year 2 now. So, I might you might see me say something completely different in 6 months. I'm doing a lot of soccer coaching.
Oh, nice.
The space up and running, I'm like rededicating to some of the more mom stuff. So I'm like coaching soccer, and I'm volunteering and teaching science in my kids' classes. Trying not to lose all the physics that's in my brain, and just again trying to make sure that I'm getting out there and snowshoeing and skiing and continuing to live the life that we intended to in Tahoe.
It's hard when you start a business, right? Like, yeah, I think about that like constantly. Like, I live here in Northern California. Like, what's my why? How do I, yeah, instead of like heads down, I have a big tendency to just go heads down.
Yeah.
Which is, I love being in Tahoe when it's like we live right on an access trail that goes like through the woods, and it's like you can't, yeah, I'm much better headspace in getting out and about, and like you're gonna go home and do your snowshoeing. I love
No,
that.
and we also need to like I'll be the first to admit it. David and I looked back at 2021 or no, 2022 and realized we actually didn't take a vacation. We didn't,
Whoops.
I mean,
Yeah,
granted, we live in Tahoe, so we did
yeah,
a lot of time and a
yeah.
lot of
It's
snowboarding and
different though, like
but we
getting
didn't
away.
yeah,
Yeah.
and part of it I think was because in 2021, we were evacuated for a month and we had like a forced month away from Tahoe. And so it was traumatic. We ended up being very lucky, and a lot of people did lose their homes, and we were lucky to not be in that situation too. But um, we as soon as we got back, it was like,
Yeah.
full speed ahead to
Yeah.
get up and running. And uh so now we're also like, okay, we need to work that balance back in. And so we're going to Disneyland in like 2 weeks, and taking the girls.
My
And so
daughter, somebody brought that up the other day, and my daughter's like, I've never been to Disneyland. And I was like, I hate crowds. Do you hate the idea of Disneyland? I'm not even an introvert, and I don't want to go at all.
I I'm a like a hyper planner, and so
Okay.
we have our dinner reservations
Yeah.
and
And I am not. I would make a
people, and
complete disaster of the trip. We'd get there and like have to eat McDonald's. So
it's
maybe I'll have you send me your itinerary.
yeah, it's we're gonna at least leave for a long weekend. We're gonna start working on some other trip plans. And again, we have this amazing partner, so our like Trevor's covering us
Yeah.
for 3 days in the
Right.
office, and everything's gonna be in great shape. So we feel good, really good about that.
Yeah. So you guys mostly run the space. There's no other community manager.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
That is something that, again, as we continue to grow and look at expansion, we will start looking at doing some hiring. But as of right now, it's yeah, we've
Manageable.
never had employees.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Well, I am standing between you and your walk with
Dog
the
walk.
wait, yes, your Great Pyrenees and snowshoeing on the fresh powdery snow. So thank you for taking the time to do this. It was great to catch up. I'll put the last episode because we get lots of good background on Jamie in the last episode, which was 134, and we're almost at episode 300. So it was a while ago. It was pre-COVID. I think it was January or February of 2020, and we had no idea what was coming after that. So
I'll go back and watch it
yeah,
again.
but there's some great
Oh,
nuggets in that one. I point people to that episode often who are like, trying to, yeah, anyway, we won't spend time on that, but go enjoy your snowshoeing. It was great to catch up, and we'll have to do this again.
thank you. It's always a pleasure.